The National Desk, America's News, now.
There's continued frustration with the fact that we're allowing frankly, allowing the House to be governed by Democrats.
Congress is seeing a rare moment of bipartisan unity. Will another speaker be dismissed because of it? Schools threatened across the country. How close two separate campuses were from being the next mass shooting tragedy. Then tensions rise globally. Why the FBI is warning about a foreign cyber threat right here in the United States. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David, and tonight, a man is in critical condition after lighting himself on fire right outside the New York City courthouse where Donald Trump's hush money trial is underway. We saw images today of that person being rolled out on a stretcher, and they are graphic, so we did blur the images. Now, this man you can see right here, this man, we understand, he set himself on fire in a public park just opposite of the courthouse, just minutes after the jury selection ended. The man has been identified as a 37-year-old from St. Augustine, Florida. Police are labeling him as a conspiracy theorist and say he scattered pamphlets around the park before setting himself ablaze. Officials rushed to the scene to put out the fire and brought the man to Cornell Burn Unit. Police now investigating. They do say there are no threats to the public at this hour. An appeals court, meantime, has refused to halt Trump's criminal trial after one of his attorneys argued jury selection was rushed. In the ongoing Trump trial, a full jury of 12 people and 6 alternates has been seated now that the last 5 alternates were sworn in today, with opening statements set to begin in this case on Monday. And a live look now at Capitol Hill, where just hours ago we learned legislation to provide billions of dollars in stalled security funding to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan will move forward.
The yeas are 316, the nays are 94. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
As you heard there, 316 to 94, the GOP-led House, relying on the help of Democrats, passed a procedural vote that allows for the chamber to break the Senate's version of the funding bill into separate parts. Republicans long insisting the Senate's version was a blank check for foreign aid. Earlier today, Speaker Mike Johnson laid out the now 4 separate bills that both the House and the Senate are set to vote on tomorrow.
Everyone can vote their will and their constituents' desires on the Israel aid, the Ukrainian aid, the Indo-Pacific, and then our 4th national security package that has all of our innovations in it. Because we did this process, we got a better outcome here.
While most Democrats joined Republicans to push the new rule forward, it's unclear how some of them will vote tomorrow. When it comes to Israel aid, a growing contingency of Democratic lawmakers critical of Israel's military campaign in Gaza, citing a high civilian death toll and a growing hunger crisis there. Some lawmakers have insisted there be restrictions on weapons transfers until a full investigation is completed into their use in Gaza. And the debate over funding comes as fears of escalation in a broader Middle East conflict intensify. Israel hit central Iran earlier this morning in an apparently limited retaliatory strike. The U.S. has chosen not to comment, and it's unclear where things go from here. National correspondent Matt Gelka takes a look at a conflict now in uncharted territory.
U.S. officials might have gotten a last-minute heads-up on Israel's retaliatory strike on Iran, but denied involvement.
The United States has not been involved in any offensive operations. What we're focused on, what the G7 is focused on, and again, it's reflected in our statement and in our conversation, is our work to de-escalate tensions.
The fear over further retaliation from an Israeli strike on Iran has increased, with multiple warnings from Iranian officials all week.
If the Israeli regime commits that grave error once again, our response will be decisive, definitive, and regretful for them.
But there was optimism a wider war wouldn't break out following Israel's limited response.
The fact that both Israel and Iran are downplaying it is a good sign. So the escalation needs to stop.
Israel proved last night to the Iranian regime they can hit them anywhere within their homeland. So hopefully the response appears to be proportional, and we'll see if we can get everything to cool down a little bit.
It appears that the two countries turned down the heat after the direct conflict. Both nations have never been shy about conducting shadow war type strikes on each other. The willingness to now attack directly, country to country, puts conflict in the Middle East in uncharted territory.
What we're seeing right now is this conflict cross a line from a shadow war to what is in essence an open, low-grade direct conflict between these two countries.
Isfahan, the city in Iran where the explosions were heard, is home to a military base and some nuclear facilities, with experts speculating that Israel was sending the message, we can hit you where it hurts if we want to. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
And right now, dozens of ceasefire advocates remain camped out at Columbia University as the demonstration continues into its third day. This just a day after New York City police arrested more than 100 people on suspicion of criminal trespass during the campus protest. Protesters say they want both an end to the war in Gaza and that they want the university to stop investing in corporations that support the Israeli military. Solidarity protests erupted today at several other campuses across the nation, including the University of North Carolina, Boston University, Ohio State, and Harvard. Tragedy striking just moments ago in Greenbelt, Maryland, where 5 teenagers were shot and injured today after a senior skip day water gun fight. Police say hundreds of students attended this event. We do know right now that 3 18-year-olds and 2 minors were shot. 2 victims, we understand, are in critical condition. Right now, this is all very new, so we're still working to get the details on what may have happened here and the conditions of some of those victims. Stay with us as we work to learn more and, of course, bring you the very latest. And it comes as the threat at the campus of Chattanooga State Community College was stopped this morning when campus police detained 1 suspect and then seized their car. The school immediately notified students by text that multiple weapons were confiscated, that the threat was contained there. An investigation underway tonight. The identity of the suspect not known right now. Meantime, a high school student in Montgomery County, Maryland, charged with threats of mass destruction stemming from what appears to be a manifesto with plans to shoot up a school. The National Desk's Brad Bell has more.
At Wooten High School this afternoon, disbelief and relief.
It's just scary about how mental illness is damaging people in these times and how they want to hurt other people. And who knows what he could have done.
Word spreading quickly in the hallways. Police charging 18-year-old Andrea Yee with making a threat of mass violence. According to an unusually detailed charging document, Yee, who is female but identifies as male and prefers the name Alex, has been on police radar for more than 2 years since they were hospitalized for threatening to, quote, shoot up a school. They were arrested yesterday after an informant who was recently a patient with Yee in a psychiatric hospital alerted police to Yee's recently completed book. The 18-page police charging document, including multiple sections of what police say is Yee's manifesto, with quotes like, I want to shoot up my school. I've been preparing for it for the past few months, and as I walk through the hallways, I cherry-pick the classrooms that are the easiest targets, and this chilling passage. I have also considered shooting up my former elementary school because little kids make easier targets. Montgomery County Public Schools releasing a statement on the arrest, the serious nature of the charges, and pointing out Yee has not physically attended Wooten since the fall of 2022.
It would have been like tragic if they didn't catch him. Like a 130-page essay, like just based on trying to shoot up the school and pick easy targets.
You have to be aware of your surroundings more in school, and you got to be prepared for what could happen and take lockdown seriously.
In Portland, a group of public school parents filed a $100 million lawsuit against the Portland Association of Teachers and the Oregon Education Association, saying those unions caused negative emotional and educational impacts on students when they went on strike late last year seeking a better contract. From November 1st to November 26th, Portland area schools were closed and all extracurricular activities were canceled. The parents say they missed work and or paid out of pocket for extra childcare during that month. The military plans to start cognitive testing on every soldier entering the service starting this June, all of it in response to pressure from the Senate. An investigation showed the gunman in the Lewiston mass shooting had severe brain damage, likely linked to repeated concussive blasts from Army training. The Army secretary said they're also looking at additional personal protective equipment. The families of 3 deceased Alabama inmates are suing several groups claiming their relatives' organs were kept without permission following autopsies. Some of the defendants listed in the cases are the Alabama Department of Corrections Commissioner and the University of Alabama system. It follows similar claims from 3 other families. In just under 2 hours, about 5,500 auto workers at the Volkswagen plant in Chattanooga, Tennessee, will finish voting on whether or not they would like to unionize with the United Auto Workers. A simple majority will decide. This is the 3rd attempt by this plant to unionize in the last 10 years. The last time it suffered defeat in 2019 with 48% support. Local officials are urging a similar result despite the workers looking for a new outcome.
Unionization could restrict Volkswagen's success and prevent further job growth in the region and thereby limiting opportunities for Chattanoogans and Tennesseans.
Respect is a big thing that we're after right now. We're kind of viewed as living robots in the plant. Much more hopeful and positive for this one.
And we should know the tally of the vote shortly after it ends at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. Coming up, the steps President Biden is taking to protect LGBTQ plus students and sexual assault victims on campus. Then the cutting-edge new technique that can bring immediate relief to people suffering from shoulder pain. And later, what lawmakers are pushing for after reports showed some train bridges in Ohio were in poor or critical condition. We'll be right back. Tonight, at least a 3rd Republican is joining the effort to vacate House Speaker Mike Johnson from the chair. Arizona Representative Paul Gosar said he has had enough and will co-sign the motion. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the author of the resolution, said passing Ukraine funding, well, that would be her red line on dropping the bill. But it seems unlikely that Speaker Johnson will suffer the same fate as former Speaker Kevin McCarthy, as he is gaining Democratic support on the bills coming to the floor. And what some are calling a coalition government, it was the minority party that pushed the procedural votes over the finish line for the foreign aid funding bills.
The rule allows for the substantive bill to be put on the floor. I don't have all my Republicans who agree on that rule, and that means the only way to get a rule on the floor is that it requires a couple of Democrats.
Republicans are in disarray. They cannot get the job done themselves. As to Speaker Johnson, his future is really dependent upon the Democrats also.
Well, new Title IX provisions, they are now final, protecting LGBTQ+ students and victims of campus sexual assault. President Biden announced he's rolling back Trump-era sexual assault rules while also banning schools from discriminatory acts towards transgender students. Most of the new rules ensure schools and colleges respond to sexual misconduct complaints. The updates go into effect in August. 2 suspected Russian spies have been arrested by German police. Authorities there say the suspects are accused of vetting targets for possible attacks, including American military facilities in Germany. The country claims the suspects were trying to undermine Germany's aid to Ukraine. The Russian embassy called the accusations, quote, absurd and ridiculous. The FBI right now, the director of the FBI, detailing the threat China is posing to the United States. Critical infrastructure, he says, are prime targets. National correspondent Atral Nashar reports from Washington on the scale of the threat.
Chaos and disruptions to everyday American life, FBI Director Christopher Wray says, are part of the Chinese Communist Party's cyber war plan.
What we're facing today is the CCP throwing its whole government into undermining the security of the rule of law world.
Eyeing an invasion of Taiwan by 2027, China laying plans to disrupt any attempt by the United States to come to Taiwan's aid, according to the U.S. intelligence community.
And that its plan is to land low blows against civilian infrastructure to try to induce panic and break America's will to resist.
Hacking water treatment plants, transportation systems, energy grids. Wray says it's all fair game in the eyes of the CCP. Outside the federal government, some experts are skeptical there's sufficient evidence to justify Wray's level of alarm.
I would like to see, for example, a group of kind of neutral academics, including some skeptics maybe, who could look over this evidence and judge it a little better.
Lyle Goldstein, director of Asia engagement at the think tank Defense Priorities, agrees a conflict between the U.S. and China is possible, but says there's a danger in overhyping the cyber aspect.
If we have finite resources, should we spend more resources on, building torpedoes and frigates and less on worrying about, that China is going to disrupt some of our infrastructure?
The FBI says so much comes down to the private sector, which owns the vast majority of the nation's critical infrastructure, their cyber defenses, contingency plans, and coordination with the government. Director Wray also sharing what keeps him up at night.
What is the thing that we just haven't had the time to imagine?
Anxiety can be felt across Washington. What would be attacked? Who would be hurt? How would the U.S. retaliate? And what would it mean for a conflict or war between the United States and China? On Capitol Hill, I'm Atral Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Apple is pulling Meta's WhatsApp and Threads apps from its app store in China. Apple said today they were ordered to take them down for, quote, national security reasons. Telegram and Signal were also forced to be removed from the store today. It is not clear what security concerns the Chinese government has with these messaging apps. Close call. The FAA investigating a near collision between a JetBlue plane and a Southwest plane at Reagan National Airport in D.C. yesterday. Air traffic control data from live ATC shows the Southwest plane started to cross over the same runway that the JetBlue plane was taking off from. The JetBlue plane then canceled the takeoff. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Tesla, meantime, recalling nearly 4,000 Cybertrucks because the accelerator pedals can get stuck in the down position. Scary stuff. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says employees used soap to get to help get the pad onto the pedal, which can prevent the pad from staying on, causing the pedal to stick. It impacts all 2024 Cybertrucks manufactured from November 13th to April 4th. A procedure that reverses the shoulder joint can help people reduce pain, overcome an injury, and get back full range of motion. Medical reporter Liz Bonas shows us how this surgery gives immediate results.
Hey there, everybody. If you are in pain from a shoulder problem and you need to replace the shoulder joint, today we take you inside the operating room to share how newer techniques and newer technology helping patients get back an important part of their lives. We do want to warn you, however, we are showing actual surgery, and part of that's medically graphic.
So what we're about to see is what's called a reverse shoulder replacement or reverse total shoulder arthroplasty.
Dr. Brandon Kors of Ohio's OrthoCincy is an orthopedic surgeon who says this procedure is commonly performed in those who have shoulder pain, bad arthritis, or rotator cuff injuries that can't be repaired. Once the incision in the front of the shoulder is made,
You go down, you go between a couple of the muscles and go down to the bone. You resect part of the humeral head.
once Dr. Kors reaches the socket, as this animation shows, he replaces the joint with the inset reverse shoulder system.
It's called a reverse shoulder replacement because you actually switch what you're doing there. You actually put the ball where the socket used to be and the socket where the ball used to be. What that does is it actually constrains and almost turns the shoulder into a hip joint in a way, and stabilizes everything, allowing your big deltoid muscle out here to be able to lift your arm appropriately.
What he explains so simply, however, takes a bit of jostling. And then, as we look on, medical photojournalist James Harrison and I get to see the exact moment we've been waiting for. Watch this. In a patient that could not get his hand above his shoulder.
Now, hopefully, he's going to be able to lift his arm again where he wasn't able to before. So hopefully he lifts it up to about there.
Full range of motion. What could be better than that for immediate results?
The biggest risks of any surgery, of course, infection and healing complication. Dr. Kors says usually within about 2 weeks, patients can start to get back to regular activity. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonas reporting.
Liz, thank you. And coming up, a Maryland mother still has unanswered questions over a year after her son was shot and killed raking leaves. What she's doing to prevent this from happening to anyone else, right after this. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America.
This report from the Butler County Engineer's Office shows specific details about the 123-year-old bridge crossing over Hamilton Mason Road in Liberty Township, saying its substructure is in poor condition and decay causes debris to drop on traffic passing underneath. Compare that with a federal report provided by owner Norfolk Southern and the Federal Railroad Administration, showing only the address of the bridge and if it meets capacity requirements. Unlike publicly owned highway bridges, train bridges are owned by private railroad companies. Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown obtained the records and provided them to Local 12.
Norfolk Southern is, they don't want to admit any wrongdoing.
Brown has pushed for detailed inspection reports of train bridges throughout Ohio for nearly a year.
We still have so many unanswered questions.
Juanita Agnew remembers it was a calm day like this when her 13-year-old son, Jace, was doing chores, raking the leaves in the yard. But then he was shot and killed, leaving detectives still actively searching for his killer almost 2 years later.
I'm still in disbelief that no one heard anything, and I'm still in disbelief that as of today, there's no leads or no arrests in the case.
Agnew is hoping to turn her tragedy into a triumph for the community. She's going to be part of the Prince George's County Gun Violence Task Force, which could launch as early as next month.
The NHL is coming to Utah, which adds an additional quality of life amenity to the fastest growing state in the country.
It just speaks to, again, the growth and how Utah has really come on the national scale in terms of sports.
The NHL came to Ryan Smith to broker the deal. The owner of the Arizona Coyotes gets to keep that name and logo and will have the chance to bring a new team back to Arizona in 5 years. Walter Franco, a sports consultant with Victus Advisor, says it's a unique deal structure, but has happened recently here with the Royals.
Something that wasn't very common, many years ago, but now it's becoming more common because, sports sales are very complicated.
Coming up, not one, but two new Taylor Swift albums are out today. What the artist says was behind this new comeback. Pop star Taylor Swift surprised her fans with a double album release today. At midnight, Swift dropped her 11th studio album, The Tortured Poets Department, reflecting on her life's work as an artist. Then 2 hours later, she released The Tortured Poets Department, The Anthology, which features 15 additional songs. In an Instagram post, the pop star says over the past 2 years, she'd written so much tortured poetry and that she wanted to share it with her fans. Word on the street, by the way, is that there is a song on the album about her latest romance flame, but I'll let you figure that out. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening for more coverage on America's top stories. I'm Amira David. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful weekend.